Hey, welcome everyone. I see people joining right now, which is great. We are going to give everyone just a couple of minutes to settle in, join. We're right at 10 o'clock right now, but we know how these things go. It takes a couple minutes to settle in, start your link, get settled. So just hang out with us for a second and we'll get started in a couple minutes. Andrea and I actually, right before we started the webinar, we were making sure that like our candles were lit, we were in a calm setting, everything
Had my
felt
tea.
good. So do the same. We're here together for an hour and a half. So make sure that your water is filled up, make sure that you're in a comfortable setting. Just make sure it feels good. That's what today is about. So cool. Okay, I love it. I see lots of people joining, which is amazing. We'll give, a couple more minutes for people to come in. Awesome. Awesome. Andrea, do you see the chat live?
I don't. I see Q&A.
Okay, you do see a Q&A there.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Maybe we'll hang out in the Q&A. I think everyone can see that. Okay, awesome. We're about 2 minutes in. Continue to join everyone, get settled. We're so happy to have you here. We'll wait just, 30 seconds to another minute before we dive in and start rolling through this. Awesome. Okay, I see more people joining. Here we go. Stoked to have you all here today. Stoked to have Andrea with me here today too. We're going to do introductions in just a minute. Okay, we're gonna start cruising through. So before we dive in, we're just gonna, well, obviously, thank you for being here to go through our goal setting workshop with us, right? Let's start there and settle there. I think because you all joined, you press the button, you know why you're here, but today is really, really about starting 2026 with clarity, right? So, how do we find that clarity? How do we set our goals? How do we reflect? And how do we all make it really meaningful and intentional, right? So, today is really about bridging the gap between where you are and where you want to be, where you want to go, what you want your life to look like, right? So, I'm going to just briefly introduce myself. I know a lot of you know me, but for those that are less familiar, I'm Samantha Anderl. I am co-founder of Harlow. I am a consultant. I have been self-employed for what, Andrea, 10 plus years
Yep.
now. Our years get really squishy because we keep saying like 8, 10. Where are we now? Been self-employed for about 10 years now. And Harlow is really like the focus right now. In Harlow, for those of you that are less familiar with it, we really coin as a home for freelancers. So think about it as a place that you can go to help you solve your pain points, to help you make more money, and to really help you build a thriving, sustainable business. So we really do that through 5 core ways. We have an all-in-one product. It helps you manage your business, send invoices, proposals, contracts, all of that. We have our weekly newsletter, which I know a lot of you are on. That's really just like our curated experiences, sharing, our advice with you, bringing in sponsors and tools and resources for you, and curating weekly hot jobs. We have our job board, which drops new jobs daily, really great for marketers, designers, developers, anyone looking for contract work. And it has companies that are actively hiring, right? They're raising their hand looking for freelancers, new jobs drop daily. We have our growth accelerator, which is really one-on-one coaching support. And we'll talk a little bit at the end of this about the next rendition of that, which is the goal accelerator. So we'll get into that kind of at the end of the presentation today. And we do a lot of periodic events like this and additional resources and courses, all intended to help our audience solve very, very specific pain points. So, with that, I'm going to hand it over to Andrea just for a minute to briefly introduce herself and say hello and wave to you all.
Hi, everyone. Andrea Wilt, Samantha's co-founder, and we've been consulting and freelancing and working together for over 10 years, as she mentioned. I've been freelancing off and on for 20 years now. It's looked different to me every time I do it. Sometimes, like Samantha and I partnered together. I've set up my LLC and S Corp. I've also had times freelancing where I haven't done any of that. So a lot of experience. I just sat down and went through this whole process myself over the last 2 weeks and did my reflections and built my goals for the year. And I'm just excited to be here with you guys today and do this together because it was really helpful for me and pretty cathartic as well.
Yes. So I've been I've been going through this process for what, Andrew, probably 3 or 4 years
Yeah.
now, which is where honestly this is where this all came from, right? So I'll go through it a little bit more in the presentation, but I actually built this framework and process for myself a few years back when I was having a hard time finding a goal setting framework that worked for me specifically. And one of the things that I love is that over the years, I've pulled people into this, right? I've pulled coaching clients into it. I've pulled Andrea into it. Now I'm pulling all of you into it, which is really, really beautiful. Trying to find a framework that works for all of us, right? To help us actually like build those intentional, well-rounded lives that we all want to feel that like joy and happiness, right? So I love that, Andrea's jumped on this train. I've been doing it for a few years. And actually, this entire event came from the fact that I started sharing my goals out loud. I started publishing them online and sharing them on social and sharing them in our newsletter probably 2 or 3 years ago. And people were really interested in this framework and really interested in what I was focusing on and why and how I was setting these goals. And that's what led to this workshop, right? Just an opportunity to pull more people into that and to actually help you do the same thing. So, a little housekeeping before we dive in. This session is going to be recorded, so I will send out a recording following. And if anyone signed up and didn't attend today, or if you know anyone who didn't have a chance to sign up but really wanted to attend, we can get the recording over to them. So that's really easy. The Q&A is open. We are hoping at the end of the presentation to have some time for Q&A, but as things come up, throw them in there, right? Say hello, introduce yourself, use the Q&A more as like a conversation marker. There'll be a couple of points today where we're actually asking you to share. And if you feel comfortable doing so, you can do that in the Q&A box and send things over to us, and we'll kind of call them out and talk through them. Don't be shy. Send them over. This is meant to be like a vulnerable, transparent conversation and workshop where we're all pushing ahead with like group momentum, right? So, one of the things I want to start out by doing is thanking our sponsors. So we have two really amazing sponsors, Lettuce and Betterment, and a little bit more about each of them. So Lettuce, who's actually been a longtime partner of us, amazing, amazing team. I think Lisa is actually here today, so waving to you if you can see me and if you're on. But Lettuce is really a fintech platform for solopreneurs, right? So as we go through our goals today, if things like getting your foundation in place comes up. If saving more of your hard-earned money comes up, Lettuce is a platform that can help you do that, right? Which is why we're pulling them in today. It's just a really, really just kind of like authentic way to pull them in and to put them in front of you. So keep that in mind. They help with accounting, payroll, benefits, taxes, and really, really just like a fantastic team behind the platform who is there and is so, so helpful. And our second sponsor today, also a long-term sponsor and partner of ours, is Betterment. So if things like investing and compounding, net worth and just building more long-term wealth for yourself comes up today as we're going through our reflections, as we're going through our goal settings, Betterment is a great tool for you to explore. So it is a solo 401k. It is designed specifically for freelancers, 100% digital. They offer a lot of unique flexibility, tax credits, higher contribution limits than a lot of other options. Just a really, really great tool and platform for you to look into if that is top of mind for you. Cool. Okay. Here's what you can expect today, right? We're going to start by rooting ourselves in why goal setting matters. Why are we even here, right? Then we're going to go into the framework that I use, that Andrea used, that I think, even a lot of people that are here may already be using. We're going to go through that framework section by section. And as we go through, we're going to have actual working time for you to go out and actually do the reflections, start setting the goals, do things like that. So this isn't just me talking at you for, an hour and a half. There's going to be times where we break out and actually go do the thing. We're going to share our examples as inspiration. So, like Andrew and I mentioned earlier on, we've actually already gone through this process and we have all of our reflections and our categories and our goals written down. So, we're going to share some of those with you. And then at the end, like I mentioned, we are going to introduce you to the Goal Accelerator, which is really a program to help you not only set your goals, but to help you build the plan to actually meet your goals and to do so through personalized coaching and group accountability. So we will go way deeper into that later on, but we're really excited to also introduce you to that. Okay, why are we here, right? Why do people even goal set? Why do you want a framework? Why are you trying to introduce something new into your life? You know, today we're really focusing on intentionality, right? We're focusing on creating, tracking, and achieving your most important goals. And it's not just about business, right? My goals are not just money, business, foundation. They're about life holistically, right? Because even if we're meeting our revenue goals, even if we are building like great, magnificent businesses that feel really good, there's something missing if we're not doing so in a way that fuels other parts of ourselves, right? So you'll notice as we go through that this is all about intentionality and building our goals holistically.
Yeah, and I'll just jump in, Sam. It's like so
Yeah.
many of us go into freelancing and go into this life so that we have time and energy for these other aspects of our life. And so it's just, I think
Yes.
a lot of us just have a more integrated path. That I think that's why it's so important, at least for me, to do this exercise, looking at all the aspects of my life, not just work.
Absolutely. I think that's, I mean, whether you're a freelancer, whether you're a founder, whether you're a creator, any time that you're building something for yourself, it's about so much more than just the business. That is, I love that you called that out. And actually, ties in perfectly with my journey with goal setting, right? So, I've been goal setting for a really long time, and I've been doing so in a lot of different ways. So, my first real experience with goal setting was really as like a corporate executive, right? So I was working at the head of marketing for a software company, and we had this thing called the V2 Mom framework. Andrew was there too, so she's well versed in it and knows. And that was all about business planning, and it was about team planning, and it was about work structure, but there was no structure for personal planning, right? So once I left that company, Andrea and I actually went out and we co-founded our own consulting firm, right? We were building a $1 million a year consulting business and we started in-person planning sessions. We were going through what we wanted for the business. But again, we were ignoring a lot of pieces of like our personal life, which became really clear to us in like our first and second year of building that consulting firm that business was going great, life was out of whack, right? So then we went into building Harlow, right? Which was a whole different beast, right? Different than being a tech executive, different than building this consulting firm. We were creating comprehensive business models. We raised a round of funding. We were building strategic plans for a lot of different parts of the business. But again, this wasn't about our personal lives and what we wanted it to look like, right? And so today, we run multiple businesses. So both Andrea and I both run Harlow and have consulting businesses on the side. We both have multiple investments. We both have like properties. We have just, we're multifaceted individuals with a lot of different interests and a lot of different things that we focus on. And today I'm doing more than I ever have. And so is Andrea. And so we needed something that would fit the current version of ourselves, not these previous versions that were just focused on the business. So, coming back to why goal setting matters in general, right? And why holistic goal setting matters, right? When we're without aligning ourselves to the why, we often end up on paths that aren't intentional, right? And I'll talk about this as we move forward. And it's something that I've been working with some of my current coaching clients on, right? It's one thing to say, I want to make $100,000. It's another thing to say, I want to make $100,000 because of this, because of the way it's going to make me feel, because of what it's going to enable me to do, right? That's the piece that actually sends you on an intentional path. It's not just the kind of, I don't want to say it's a shallow goal, right? But we want to be really intentional about the why. so that we can be making the right strategic decisions, right? And for me, obviously, right? Like I want my life to be intentional. I want to focus on the things that matter for the right reasons. And I want to set goals across my life, right? Not just in business, not just in, this company or that company or my investments. I really wanted to make sure that I had a framework that encompassed everything that I wanted to accomplish in my relationships, in my fun, in my social life, in my self-growth, right? And so that's why I actually created this system. The problem with most goal setting frameworks, right? I know a lot of people, you've maybe tried journals before, you've tried other frameworks, you've tried other ways of doing this. A lot of them are really overwhelming with complex frameworks, right? A lot of the frameworks that we used to use in our corporate roles, like the V2 mom, other things, like they're too complex for what I'm trying to do right now, right? Some of them are not deep enough to feel meaningful, right? I have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful little journal on my desk where I set daily intentions. And that's great. And that's part of it, but it's not well-rounded enough to actually encompass everything that I'm trying to accomplish, right? And a lot of these things, there's no connections between business and personal. And Andrea, I can tell you want to chime in.
No, I was just going to say I have an awesome journal on my desk too that I populate for like the first, I don't know, week, 2 weeks of the
Uh-huh.
year, and then it's just sits there for the rest of the year. So,
Yes, and I love that because that ties into one of my points, right? Which is like a lot of us set goals once or we use it for a couple weeks. We get really excited in January, we're like on it, we're doing the thing, and then we forget about it, right? And a lot of times because it's maybe in a journal that we don't open anymore, or it's written down over here, but we completely forget about it, right? So one of the things that we're going to talk about today is accountability and regular reflection, which is a part of this, right? And one of the other things that ties into that really closely is course correction, right? So one of the things that I talk to my coaching clients about a lot, that Andrea and I talk about a lot is, we may go into January really excited about something, and that may be the focus for us right now. But 3 months down the line, we may realize that that's not the right path anymore, and that's okay, right? Goal setting is not about like to a T, so specifically understanding what your entire year is going to look like. It's about charting a path, but it's also about being able to reflect on that path and see if you're still going in the right direction to meet your holistic goals, right? So here's what we came up with, right? It's a simple but powerful solution for you to set your goals. So it's simple enough that it's not overwhelming, right? There's not like 50 questions to answer, and it's not this, 10-page thing that we're creating, but we give you enough space to add depth to make it meaningful, right? So we're going to go through all of this, but really what it really looks like is you start with a deep reflection of the previous year, right? And Andrea and I actually do this differently, and we'll go into that. But we're going to guide you through some questions to use to actually go through that reflection. You define what you want to take forward and what you want to leave behind, right? We create a guiding word, an empowering phrase. This is a way for us to root ourselves in the high level, what we're really trying to do, and then how we pull that down into our supporting phrases and goals. We break our goals into categories. So we don't just have like, 15 goals that we're trying to accomplish. We think about them as categories. And Andrea and I will share our personal categories in a little bit. One of the things that I do, which I know is not right for a lot of people, and that's okay, is I share my goals publicly. And one of the reasons that I do that, one, it's to inspire and to help other people in my community, but also it's another layer of accountability for me, right? If I'm saying these are the things that I'm going to do, this is how I want to live my life, this is what I want to build at Harlow, this is what I want to do in my consulting business, it's out there, right? I've said it, I've stated it, and my community can hold me accountable to that. And not only my community, but other people in my life. My business partner can hold me accountable. My partner can hold me accountable. My friends can hold me accountable, right? And then regular check-ins and course corrections. So we'll go into this more and deeper as we move forward, but this is a very, very important part of this, right? So again, it's not about just reflecting, setting our goals. It's also about accountability, course correcting, check-ins, and making sure that we're actually following the path that we've defined. One thing to keep in mind as we're going to start like rolling into this and actually going into some working time here is your goals should feel like permission, not pressure. And I've been saying this a lot lately, and I've been getting a lot of really great responses, right? We don't want to set these goals that feel like a weight on our shoulder, that feel like it's like giving us a knot in our stomach, right? Like we want to set goals that feel like expansion, right? we want it to feel like we want to exhale, not like tense up, right? And when we hit them, it should feel like relief, not added responsibility, right? So we want to be really intentional with how we're setting our goals so that we actually get the positive feelings that come from hitting them, right? So keep that in mind. We're looking at expansion, not obligation, right? Permission, not pressure. And another thing, as we start going into actual reflection mode, when I think about goals and when I think about reflection and this entire process, it's not about becoming an entirely new person, right? It's not saying new year, new me, I'm totally different this year, right? It's kind of three-dimensional. So we have a continuation. What's working for you? What do you love about your life? What do you love about yourself? What do you love about who you are, right? What are we pulling with us into the next year? It's about a recalibration. What's not serving us? What didn't make us feel good last year? What could we do differently? And then it's about an introduction of new, right? So, what are the things that we haven't been doing or haven't been focusing on that we know or think that we need to in order to be fulfilled and intentional and sustainable, right? So, as you go through your reflection process, keep that in mind, right? Not everything has to be like building life from scratch. It's really about what you want to take with you, what you want to let go, and what you want to add. So, this is where we start with everything, right? This is the deep reflection. So, every year we start with this brief for reflections. There's some key questions here. What did you love about last year? What made you feel good last year? What did you struggle with? Which decisions had positive impacts? Which decisions steered you off course? What do I want to take with me from this year? And what am I ready to let go of? I will say these questions are in this order for a strategic purpose. It brings your brain from positive to negative, and both ends and starts on this positivity note. But one of the things that Andrea and I actually talk about a lot is that this is just guidance, right? So if you're going through these questions as we start to go into working time and one of them just doesn't resonate with you, if you're like, I don't think I struggled with anything, or I can't identify any decisions that steered me off course. Skip over it, right? Or write down anything that comes to mind, even if it isn't a direct answer to this question. Use these in a way that feels good to you, right? And I'll start here by sharing my one of my deep reflections, and I'll hand it over to Andrea to share one of hers. But one of the ones I wanted to share with you is what did you struggle with in 2025? So when I went through this process for myself, the first thing was a stacked business calendar. I had too many meetings, right? There were days where I had 6 or 7 meetings on my calendar, and for me, that's too much. Energetically, I don't have room to both do that and be creative and strategic. And being creative and strategic is a big part of my job and how I grow my business and how I find joy and fulfillment, right? Over delivering. So in the past year, both Andrea and I separately launched a lot of new programs, right? We launched a lot of new things. We tried a lot of new things. We brought on new consulting clients. And I put a lot of pressure on myself to over deliver and act quickly because I was trying to show value, right? And that over delivery, that adds tension, right? So I between stacked business calendars and over delivering, I felt a lot of tension in my business this year and I felt it in my body. Too much busyness. So a lot of you, if you do know me, you know that I love to travel, I love to have fun, I love to live a really full life outside of work. And I did that this year to the extreme, right? So, and Andrea's giggling over here because she knows, right? I had a lot of back-to-back trips. I had a stacked social calendar, and I needed more time to breathe and reflect and just be me. And those things kind of tie in together, right? Between a stacked business calendar, over delivering, and too much busyness in my social calendar, you could see why that would be depleting, right? And then the last thing here, which is super transparent and vulnerable with you, is saving. So I had a big savings goal last year, which I missed, and I missed it intentionally, right? Andrew and I invested a ton of money back into our business. I made decisions in my life to buy things or spend money in certain areas. I took a lot of trips, which felt right at the time. But this year, I know one of the things I'm really focusing on is seeing my compound net worth grow over time. So I'll hand it over to Andrea to share her
Mm.
reflections on what she struggled with in 2025.
Yeah, you'll notice mine start off a little bit more on the personal side, right? A lot of life changes this year, put me into new situations, which brought up anxiety, which actually took a lot of energy for me to like process. I have a 5-year-old at home and he started a new school. And it's so funny because I've said for the last year, like, oh yeah, transitions are hard for my kid. And I realized, no, transitions are hard for me too.
Yeah.
And that was kind of a big aha moment for me as I was going through this process. And my, next reflection is really related to that, is like just breaking free from some of the day-to-day grind and getting out of my own head to be like, oh yeah, let me make room for these things that light me up. Let's actually put my phone down, put the work down, and focus on the person in front of me. So those were my two like big ones that I think were a little bit more on the personal side. Work side, I always struggle with letting my clients take over my calendar. And I know one of my work colleagues is on this call today, and they probably understand that also. But for me, what happens is unfortunately I'll let them like I want to do such a good job, right? I want to provide all of this value. And so I'm a people pleaser. And then I inadvertently let their priorities become my priorities and their urgency become my urgency. And so that's something that I struggled with this year. And Sam, I had kind of the same thing on the saving side. Like I did stall out on saving this year. Um, but I definitely had a lot of fun. So I went on some good trips. So
You
I'd like to shift that for next year.
the interesting thing is Andrea and I are very different people. We're different enneagrams. We're different like human designs, like which is why we work so well together, right? Like we're very compatible, but we're very different. But the interesting thing to me this year, as we were going through a lot of our like goal settings and reflections, is that we had a lot of like overlying themes that may look slightly different to each of us, and the fix and where we want to go might look slightly different to each of us. But it's so interesting, any of you who have like worked closely with somebody like you both kind of follow a path together in some ways that you have to break out of, right? Which is funny because it's nice that I have another person here who can hold me accountable, but it's also funny because we can also be guilty of going down a bad path together because
Together.
because we're both doing it at the
Yeah.
same time, right? So that's just a really interesting thing that came up as I was like looking at Andrea's goals. And I'm sure here as a group, as we start talking about like our goals and our reflections, I'm sure a lot of overlapping themes will come up. I see this a lot with my coaching clients as well. I was actually just in a coaching session yesterday, and we were going through our reflections. And she was like, "Hey, you actually really inspired this thing that I'm going to do in 2026 because you just posted about it." And I was like, "That is so funny. I posted about it because you inspired me to add it to my goal list." Right. And so it's kind of this circle of inspiration that we can take from the people around us, which we'll talk more about too when we get into like the goal accelerator and like the group accountability piece of this. I found it to be very rewarding and very, very powerful. Okay, so we are going to go into our first working session of today. So here's what we're going to do, right? We're going to give everyone around 10 minutes. So it's about 10:30 now. We're going to come back together around 10:40. I am going to send over the goal setting template in the chat or in the Q&A, I guess. So you have it. Oh, I don't know if Andrea, can you send that over in the Q&A?
I actually don't know if I can either because of the way this is set up. Well, I tell you
Hmm.
what, you know what we might want to do, Sam, is we
Hmm.
can just go back to the previous slide where the questions are and leave that up,
Yeah,
and
let's do
everybody
that.
can just work through the questions.
Perfect. And then we'll send over the more formal structure following. Okay, that's a great idea, Andrea. So what we're going to do here is we're going to pull up the questions and we're going to start here with our deep reflections, right? So I will send over a template following that you can use that actually has like the formal structure for all of this. But in the meantime, 10 minutes, go through these reflections, write them down, paste this into a Google Doc, get out your notebook, whatever it is, start going through this. I'm going to play some music so you have a little bit of light jazz in the background. And about at the minute mark, we will call you back. So I'm going to go on face mute. Just take this time to really work, reflect, go through this, and we will reconvene in about 10 minutes. Okay, we're at the 1 minute mark here. So I want to invite everyone to start wrapping up what you're working on, write down your last sentences, type them out, get your remaining thoughts down, and we'll come back here in just a moment to start digging back in. What I would also invite you to do as you start coming back to the presentation, as you wrap up your remaining thoughts. Forgive me that chat is not working for some reason, and neither is my smooth jazz music that I was going to play while you were going through your reflections. But when you come back, use that Q&A box to tell us about some of those reflections. So let us know what you're thinking about, what you loved from last year, what you struggled with, what made you feel good. If you feel comfortable and want to share, go ahead and throw them in the Q&A box, and I will read off a few of those. So go ahead, start moseying back, and let me know in the Q&A what you're thinking about. All right, everyone, come on back. Andrea, anything additional on reflections? I know that we shared yours here, but anything additional that you want to share? What else are you like reflecting on? What else is, top of mind for you?
Everything.
Everything.
The good stuff I did have, there was a lot of good. There was a lot of good last year. And so trying to figure out how to push that into next year and maintain that.
I love that. I will say one of the things that I think we both reflected on, which was really wonderful, and I think we were really aligned on, is that 2025 was a really expansive year for Harlow.
Yeah.
Was something that Andrew and I are really proud of. Building a business from the ground up is a really hard thing to do. Building community, building trust, building authority, doing all of those things. And last year was a really big year of growth and expansion. And I know we're both looking to carry that into
Yeah.
2026 and kind of build on those levers that we've started to understand,
Times
which is
10.
times 10. Yeah, which is awesome. Okay, I see a couple of answers here. Okay, biggest struggle, saying yes to too many things, taking on projects just to make extra cash, but work I do not enjoy. I think we have all been there and have been guilty of that. If you haven't, kudos to you for starting from the beginning with strong boundaries. But I think I know Andrea and I have multiple times in the past taken on projects that we knew they were red flags. We knew they probably weren't the right fit for us. We still took them on because we were in scarcity mindset, right? We wanted the money. I love that you want to be more intentional with the work you take on this year. I think that's what this entire process is about, right? Okay, we have a reflection on what made me feel good. Letting go of clients who are not a good fit. Yes, I can see. See, obviously, like themes start coming up here as we're going through this, right? Um, I did the same thing this year. I brought on a client who, at first, I did think was going to be a good fit. After 3 months, it became very apparent that they were no longer a good fit, and we parted ways. Sometimes that feels like a failure to people, right? It is not. It is always in your best interest to bring on the right fit clients and to make decisions that work for both you and them, right? Because I will say a lot of the times when a client is not right for us, we're also not right for them. And it's better growth if we both part ways. Okay, something else
Yeah.
that made,
I see one in here that really resonates for me.
yeah, read it out
Uh,
loud.
yeah, Yolanda says that one of the things that made her feel really good this year was just taking small steps. And that actually came up for me, like just any action, a small, steady action. And that came up in my reflections as well, as I realized, like, oh, I can make a decision in my head and be like, yeah, I'm going to do that. But it's actually once I start to just, I need to do the thing because as Samantha knows, I'm a really good procrastinator.
But it is true. And that I think that's part of this too. And when it comes to building the plan, right? Like a lot of us are like big vision people, big idea people, and that's really wonderful. We want to like jot that down. But the trick is figuring out the small steps and actions that we can take to actually get there. So I love that we're kind of rooting down in that, right? Small, steady steps. Everything that you do to work towards your goal matters.
Yeah.
Hi, Melissa. I see you there. Um, okay, I love this. Okay, this is like personal stuff that she loved and felt really good about last year, which is amazing. So, learning to garden, rediscovering my love for painting. Okay, that really resonates with me because one of the things that I reflected on as well last year that I didn't do actually was lean into my creative side. And so, a lot of the things that you're saying are things that I'm adding new or pulling into 2026. So slow mornings with my dog. I've been actually practicing that through January, leaning into really slow mornings and easing into things. A full year of no medical drama. We love that. And learning to set better clients and set boundaries. Love, love that. Okay, I'm going to read off one more here. I know there's a lot in here, but
It's
okay.
a lot of boundaries coming up
A,
here.
a lot of boundaries, and we love that because that is, I
That's the
actually think that
reoccurring theme for me, I think, every year.
yes, and I think that's actually, I think when we go and share my actual goals, I think I share my work boundary goals. So we'll get
Yeah,
into
you
that. You
do.
can see that that's obviously something for me too. Okay, another thing here. Uh, love that I took a risk to brand myself and put myself out there, which is so hard, right? Like figuring out where to start, building a brand around yourself and putting yourself out there. Like you have to do it to start and build a sustainable business, but it can be really hard to do. And I hear on the other side of that, struggling with self-doubt and imposter syndrome and the need to be constantly selling myself. I think that's all very normal and natural. And, some of that goes away through experience and gaining confidence step by step in small decisions like we were talking about. But I hear that and I feel that really, really deeply.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. We're going to push forward here. But if you're here and you're looking at the Q&A, there's like 12 or 15 shares in there of what people are reflecting on. So go ahead and take a look at those. This is actually so timely because what you'll notice in your own reflections and also the people around you, right, who are in similar places, building similar things, is that themes start to emerge, right? So as you're working through your reflections, what you'll notice is things start coming up, right? Maybe you need better boundaries and it's across work and personal life, right? Maybe you're not flexing your creativity enough and that's across work and personal life. Maybe slow mornings, it's what's setting you up for success in your work and personal life, right? But what should happen to this reflection process is it should become really clear again what you want to continue, where you want to recalibrate, and what you want to let go of, right? And then what new goals you want to add on top of all that. So start to think about these themes in your reflections as we move into our next step. So now what we're going to do, what we did just now is we looked back at your 2025, right? What felt good, what didn't, what served you, what didn't. Now what we're going to do is root ourselves in our actual guiding framework and our high level theme for the upcoming year, right? So when we choose our guiding word and phrase, the reason why we do this is because all of our goals should really roll up into this, right? This becomes our North Star. Every decision and every goal should really align to your guiding principle, right? And so I share mine here. You can choose a guiding word or guiding words. I ended up choosing two. Andrea will share hers in a second. And I chose this phrase, right? So for me, my 2026 words are abundance and ease. So I chose them both together because just choosing abundance may mean that I might overdeliver and overwork and not honor my boundaries because I want more things, whatever that looks like, right? More experiences, whatever it is. Um, but when you combine it with ease, for me, it means more abundance in a way that feels good and that feels purposeful, right? And that feels in alignment. So that's why my phrase is my life and business will feel abundant, purposeful, and easeful, bringing me peace and confidence, right? So that is what I'm aligning all of my goals and all of my categories, which we'll get into in a second, to this phrase abundance and ease. My life and business will feel abundant, purposeful, and easeful, bringing me peace and confidence. And Andrea, I don't think yours are in here, but do you want to
They're
share
not.
your guiding words and phrase,
Sure. My guiding word this year is flow.
which I love so
Um,
much? The first time you said it out loud to me, I was like, yes, that feels
yeah,
so
right.
good for you. Yes.
It's, it was interesting. It came from in the reflections, that question of, there was a question in the reflections that we talked, you and I went back and forth about what was
What
it? Oh,
decisions steered me off course?
steered me off course. That was it. So I
Hmm.
was trying to peek over to see what this were. Steered me off course. And I really struggled with this question and was like, well, nothing, I made a series of decisions that sometimes were in conflict with each other, you
Hmm.
know?
I feel that.
So
Hmm.
I don't know. And so that's kind of where this idea of like flow came from for me, of like things were good. I want to keep things I want to keep everything to be good,
Yeah.
but I also want it to grow and I want it to change and I want to build and I want momentum, but kind of to where you are, Sam, and your guiding words. I also want it to be done with some ease.
Yep.
So I felt like flow was a good word for me. And my guiding phrase is remove what blocks momentum and stay in the current of growth.
I love that. And I love that the really interesting thing in your phrase is you don't even have to say in life and business. It is just all
All of it.
encompassing. It's
Yeah.
all encompassing. And I think that's really, really beautiful, right? I love that. So, one of the things that we do from our guiding framework, right? So, we choose our guiding words, we choose our phrase that we're going to align everything to. And then what we do is we break down our goal setting into categories, right? So, my categories this year, which are different than my categories last year because my life has changed and shifted. Physical wellness is my top priority because I let that slip with a booked calendar in a busy social life. Self-growth, right? A lot more looking inward, a lot more alone time. Money. So I have my financial goals, which Harlow is a part of that. My consulting business, endeavors outside both of those are part of my money goals. Boundaries, which is actually mostly work boundaries, not to pat myself on the back, but I think I've done a really good job setting personal boundaries in my life. And fun, right? So for me, every year, this is probably a consistent category that you'll see. For me, life is about enjoyment and it's about living it fully and living it intentionally. And for me, that's about having fun and finding joy. So those are my categories. Andrea, I'll let you share yours.
Yep, I start with personal wellness also, because for
Mhm.
me, this is just the foundation for everything else. If I'm not taking good care of myself, then none of this stuff is going to happen, right? So
Totally.
I start there, and then my relationship and family next, then personal growth. And this is kind of a mix of, fun and community and just how I want to grow as an individual, human being over the next year. Money also, and Harlow specifically. I think this year I really want to be more intentional about the energy I put into the business and setting really clear goals specifically about Harlow, versus mixing those in with my consulting business goals.
I love that. Love that. So when you break down your categories, which we're going to do in a minute, we're about to go into another working session. Here's some ideas, right? Take these ideas, run with them, find inspiration from Andrea and I, but also know that your categories could look completely different. You could have two categories, you can have four categories, you can have three categories. Like it's really about what you're trying to focus on this year. Maybe it's one category, right? Just make this your own. It could be around health and fitness, career and business, the foundation for your business if you're just starting out, financial goals if you're looking to go into a year of growth. Maybe it's sustainability goals if you're looking to go into a year of maintenance, right? Family and friends. I know boundaries is coming up for a lot of us. Learning and growth, maybe this is your year to take a step back from your doing and spend more time educating yourself and learning and growing your skill set. If so, great. That's your category. Maybe it's travel and adventure. I know both Andrea and I, we're both travel enthusiasts, right? We want to go see the world. We want to see everything, you know. This comes up a lot in my fun category. So whatever categories resonate with you here, write them down or create your own. So with that, I'm not going to be playing background music since it just sounds like drowning water. Maybe next time we do this, I'll be more of a Zoom expert and I'll have chat and background music working. I'll add those to my goal list for 2026. But what we're going to do here is we are going to establish those guiding words, that guiding phrase, and your categories, right? So, again, just so you have this, since I didn't send the template over, your guiding words could be one word, two words, five words, whatever feels good, right? Your guiding words, a phrase that comes from that, that kind of supports holistically what you're trying to accomplish, and then your categories for which you want to set goals in, right? So I'm going to leave these categories up as examples so that you can pull from. Again, we will break for 10 minutes so that everyone can go out and actually write down your word, think through your phrase, and write down your categories. And then we will come back together like we did last time. We will share, we will read out what some other people are focusing on, and then we'll go into the next stage of goal setting. So we're going to call this a break. I'll call everyone back at around 11:05 and we'll go from there. Play your own jazz music in the background. Okay, we're about at the 10-minute mark now. So, like we did last time, start to, write down your remaining thoughts, finish your sentences, get things down on paper or Google Doc, wherever you're working. You don't, you might have 10 words right now and you're trying to narrow it down. That's perfectly fine. Keep those words down, keep those iterations of your phrases down, jot down all the categories that have come to mind. A lot of times I take most of my coaching clients through this process if they raise their hand and they're interested um, during the end of the year and the beginning of the next. And a lot of the times, this part of the process specifically starts really broad and then narrows down, right? So they're like, oh, this word makes sense and this word makes sense. Even for me this year, I was actually talking to a pal of mine. Her name is Kristen Proctor. She runs a freelance business and also has resources for freelancers and solopreneurs. And we were diving into our words and why. And one of the words that I almost brought up was sustainability, which is really important to me. And my ways of kind of reflecting that was through abundance and ease, but she chose sustainability as her word. So there's a lot of different ways that you can phrase things, even with the same intentions. It's really about what resonates to you. So if you have a big list, that's totally fine. You can refine things as you go. As you come back here, go ahead. I love how many shares we got last time on our reflections and what people are, kind of leaving behind and taking into the next year. So feel free again in that QA box to drop in your guiding words and your guiding phrases or your categories, whatever you want to share with us, go ahead and drop those in. Andrea, I know that your word for this year is flow, which I love so much. Do you remember what your word was last year?
I don't.
I was actually, it's funny. I'm sure I could go back and figure out. I think my word last year was, I think, self-confidence and empowerment. I think which is really interesting because it is a lot, it is a very different theme than what I'm going into 2026 with. Some overlap. Um,
Mhm.
but that's really what I was feeling at that time. And now my words have shifted.
Ew, I
Um,
love some of these words that
yeah,
are,
you want to call some of them out?
wow. Yes, love and boundaries, focus
Mm,
and attention, balance, strength and abundance,
yeah.
intentional connection, clear and clarity. Ooh, new, meaningful, growth, community. I like new.
Yeah,
That's a
like
good word.
freshness, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I love one of the words here too that I saw was discernment. And I love that. I have another client who actually chose specificity as her word and really, really love that, right? Like sometimes it's about doing less, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
being really specific with what you're doing and why. Um,
Courage and unlearning. These are good ones. Stability and consistency.
I love the word stability. It's something that I talk about a lot with my coaching clients and also just like my broader network and community is that stability is oftentimes at the root of what we're trying to experience, right? Especially when we're building something for ourselves. Like we have to feel stable and like it's sustainable to make it work for ourselves long term, right? So I
Mhm.
like calling that out. And I love the consistency that comes with that too, right? Stability and consistency. That feels very
Yeah.
grounding to me. Oh, and then it's funny, the next one is grounded, which I love. Balance, joy. I love calling out joy specifically. I think for me, that's always like a big focus, right? Like I want to experience joy every single day. I want to
Hmm.
experience joy long term. I want to experience joy short term. There's so many different ways to find it if we're intentional about finding it, right? Ooh, nourish. I like that. Nourish and focus. Nourish what matters, release what doesn't. Love this. Okay, some
Those are good.
categories. Some categories that I'm seeing pop up here. Okay, health, relationships, financial security, and fun and career stability. I love that. That feels like very well-rounded and matches pretty closely to what I'm focusing on. Let's see here. This is awesome. Everyone keep sharing. This is such good inspiration, not just for Andrea and I, but for everyone here, right? Like I know people are going in here and like liking things and being like, yes, I relate to that so much. That's amazing. Um, awesome. I love this, save for the future while healing and deepening the relationships that matter most. Like for those of you that are religious, I see you pulling that in here and kind of centering around that. I think that's great. Um, Structured self-preservation. I like that, right? Putting yourself first, putting the focus on you. Um, Let's see, another phrase here, forming positive habits, celebrating a regular schedule, and making intentional decisions about which activities will lead me to my goals. Love that. Love that. Okay, keep sharing here. This is so awesome to see. Again, you can tell that there's like a lot of themes clearly because we're all building things. A lot of us, or most of us, I would say, are probably building things for ourselves. And so a lot of the same things come up, right, that we're thinking about. So keep sharing here, keep interacting with each other. We're going to move on to the next phase of our goal setting. And a quick call out, it's 11:11. So in the spirit of goal setting and abundance and all of this, make a wish if you're into that. Okay. So here's what we do next, right? So we have our word, we have our phrase, we have our categories, right? Now we break down even to more granular. So what we've done so far is we've looked back on 2025. We've reflected. We have stated what's going to come with us and what we're going to let go, right? Then we rooted ourselves in the high level. We said, what do we really want it all to feel like holistically, right? Then we created our categories. What are we going to actually define our goals in, right? Now, what we're going to do is for each of those categories, so say you chose fun and you chose stability and you chose boundaries as your categories, you're going to create a guiding statement for each of those, right? Which is like your mini guiding statement, which is then going to support your goals in each of those categories. So before we dive into that, a couple things that I want to call out about the creation process here, right? Because we're not going to get it all done in 10 minutes, especially this part. So this is how I typically go through my creation process when I'm setting my actual goals per category. Could be one goal per category, could be three, could be five. And those phrases, get your thoughts down on paper, right? Put it in your Google Doc, put it in your notebook. And then after this session, take your time, right? Finalize your goals over several days, reflect on them, refine them, add specifics, let ideas marinate, walk away from your computer, come back tomorrow. When I set my goals, I do this over multiple days. I will take my first
Yeah.
draft and then I'll come back to it and be like, nope, that's not exactly what I meant, or that's not exactly what I'm trying to do, or that's not specific enough, or how do I make this so it's actually measurable, right? Or what is the real feeling that I'm trying to get to? This is going to be a longer process, but we want to give you the time here to at least start in it, right? And start writing down your thoughts, especially as we're in this moment and as we're thinking about it.
Yeah, I will say it took me 2 weeks to
Yeah.
finalize my goals.
Which is
So,
which is totally fine. I think it took me
yeah,
around the same. I started writing down my thoughts on goals back in early December.
yeah.
And then as I got more inspiration, as I was consuming more content, as I was taking a step back to reflect during the holidays, like it all started coming together, right? So yes, don't feel like this is something that has to be finalized today. That is not the goal. The goal for today is not to finalize your goals today, is to get you started in a meaningful direction, right? So, a little inspiration as we're about to go into our next working part of this session. One of my categories is work boundaries. So, my guiding phrase is I will deliver exceptional value without sacrificing my well being. And what that looks like for me is capped working hours. So, 9 to 4 p.m. daily, that's my max capacity. I am setting it up, and I've actually done a good job so far sticking to that. No Slack or email responses before or after working hours. I did not note here that I wouldn't check them because I'm easing into my new goals, but I am not going to respond. One of the things here is no promise of delivery or review same or next day. Andrea has actually already been a recipient of this, right? She's like, hey, can you take a quick look? And I'm like, I
Nope.
can do that on this day this week, right? So it's just becoming more intentional and not letting things pull my focus is the overall goal here, right? And the other thing is to remove myself as a bottleneck from the team. So we're a small team. We run lean. A lot of things come back to Andrea and I, right? But I am actively working this year to empower my team to deliver and to find ownership and to execute without needing nuanced guidance from me. And also part of that is putting more trust in them to do so. So those are my work boundaries. And Andrea, I'll let you share yours for inspiration.
Yep, I picked to share my category around personal growth. I kind of mentioned earlier in my like struggles for the year was, I was feeling a little bit in a rut and kind of having a hard time like picking my head up and remembering to do things that bring me joy, not everybody around me joy and my family and my child, but myself. So I picked my phrase as expand inward and outward. And the things that I want to, my goals here are really around doing something new. So I want to sign up for a class. I just want to do something new and I want to do it outside of the house because so much of my day to day, I work from home. I have a small kid. Like I need to get out of the house and interact with more people. So, so that's one of my goals. Put a little bit more energy into maintaining existing relationships and just schedule more dinners, do more coffee dates. Really put some effort and intentionality behind continuing those connections. Institute a monthly reflection practice. So you see how I said I didn't say I'm going to journal every day, Sam, because we know
Yep.
that is not going to happen.
Yep.
But I do want to carve out just one day a month where I sit down and really think about where am I? What am I doing? Where am I going? Does this feel right? And then my last item is to say yes to one thing that scares me every quarter.
I love that.
So
Are you gonna define those or come up with them as you go?
it's I think they're just going to come up. One
Uh-huh.
thing I actually hate public speaking. Like, absolutely. So, maybe it'll be giving a presentation in front of a large group of people
Ooh, I love it.
outside of this,
Uh-huh.
like I'm not exactly sure what it's going to look like, but I want to try new things.
I love it. This is a great example of actually Andrea and I choosing to focus on very different things with what we're sharing to you, right? I'm sharing with you work boundaries and what that might look like. She's sharing personal growth. So, what we're going to do, and I'm not going to be able to give you a full 10 minutes because I'm realizing that we're getting close on time. But what I do want you to do is start to just jot down, what are those goals that are coming to mind? Within those categories, what are the phrases that are coming to mind? We're going to break this time for just 5 minutes. So I'm going to give everyone 5 minutes. Just write down everything that's coming up for you. And again, this should be a longer term process. We're not going to set all of our goals today, but if there are things that are top of mind that are sparked by your reflection process and by your high level words and phrases, start to write them down. So it's about 11:18 right now. I'm going to give everyone like 5 minutes. We'll come back and we will share some of those and then talk about accountability and how we actually integrate this into our lives. And then we'll share a little bit about the Goal Accelerator as well. So, okay, everyone go ahead. Okay, I know that that 5 minutes went by really, really fast. Um, but go ahead and continue writing down whatever your thoughts are. Continue writing down those goals that are coming to mind. Get them down on your paper or your Google Doc. I invite you to do the same thing here, especially as we know, so many people in this session love the inspiration from their community around them. So feel free if there were specific goals that were like, came out immediately or specific phrases that came out immediately for you, drop them in the Q&A box so other people can see them and use them as inspiration. I'll give everyone just a few more moments to kind of come back and be present, and then we'll go into integration and accountability. So again, more than just setting the goals, but how do we actually make sure that we're using them and building a path toward reaching them, right? So, okay, I'll give everyone a few more moments. Just come back in, write down your remaining thoughts. Okay, awesome. Okay. So one thing, again, that's really important here is it's not just about reflecting. It's not just about rooting yourself in what you want to accomplish. It's not just about setting those measurable goals. It's also about integrating it into your life, right? So for me, here are some of the ways that I do that. So when I finalize my goals, finalize my reflections, I don't just keep them to myself. What I do is I use it for level setting with my own coach. So I have a business coach that I work with, and I show her what I'm trying to accomplish so she can figure out how to best support me in doing that. I share with my partner and my closest friends so that they can not only support me, but also understand where I'm coming from and why I'm making the decisions that I am and what's important to me. I share it for financial planning, right? So I share it with my financial partner, a planner. We talk about revenue targets, we talk about investment strategies and goals. I share it obviously with Andrea, my business partner, so she understands where my focus is, right? And that I'm not just setting business boundaries or, coming up with like these great, revenue goals over here without us being aligned and her understanding why I'm doing that and where my head is. And then I also use it for decision making, right? My goals are a filter for the opportunities that I take and the commitments that I make and strategic planning, right? So if I say that I want to get to a certain amount in revenue for this specific reason, how am I going to actually do that? What resources do I need? What business decisions do I need to make, right? It really comes down to integrating this into your life and then building the strategic plan to actually get there. So part of that is not just integrating into your life, but also making sure that you are staying accountable. So this is what I recommend when you go through this goal setting framework. Once you finalize, you keep this in a Google document, you can publish it online, you can keep it in your journal, whatever works for you. But what we're going to do are monthly check-ins and mid-year deep dives. And you can go in weekly if you want, whatever works for you. This is what I'm recommending. But the way to think about it are monthly check-ins, quick review of progress, identify blockers, celebrate your wins. This is big, right? I know a lot of us are like holding ourselves accountable to our goals and not actually celebrating the wins and when we actually meet them and when we're doing a good job and when things feel in alignment, celebrate those wins, right? And adjust if necessary. Something's not serving you. If that goal isn't actually reflective of what you want to accomplish, change it. This is a living, breathing document for you, right? And then mid-year. So this is a comprehensive review of all categories. I actually publish a mid-year reflection every single year with my community. Comprehensive review of all categories. It's a financial check-in. It's a relationship assessment. It's course correction and planning, right? So if I've been executing against a plan for 6 months and something's not working, what do I want to adjust? What do I want to recalibrate? And then again, make major adjustments if needed. Um, Again, life happens, priorities shift. We need to adapt our goals accordingly. And this is a way of letting us do that, right? So we don't set goals today and then in January of next year being like, oh, wow, I did not march toward those goals. I did not create a path. Those aren't relevant to anymore. This is why we continue to check in, we share them with people, and we add this integration and accountability on top of the goals that we're setting. So, post event today, I will share, since I wasn't able to in the chat, we'll actually share the goal planning template. So you can take that and plug all of your information that you've written down into that. So it's nice and clean. It's the complete framework. I will also share my full 2025 reflections and my 2026 goals. So again, as an accountability method for me, as inspiration for you, and just so you have something to look at as you're creating your own. I will also share my mid-year reflection, so how to course correct effectively. It just shows how I measure myself against my goals, and then how I talk about what's next. Also, from the beginning, you'll remember our sponsors, Lettuce and Betterment. So I know a lot of you were talking about investing. A lot of you were talking about creating the foundation for your business. A lot of you were talking about like saving more money on taxes, just getting your business under control. Lettuce and Betterment can help you do that. So I will make sure that you have resources on how to get started and how to get in touch with both of those products and the people on their teams. And then one thing that I want to leave you with here is a new program that Andrea and I are launching, and it's called the Goal Accelerator. So today's workshop gives you clarity on your goals, right? We went through the reflections. You chose your high level guiding phrases and words. You started writing down what your goals were, right? But the goal accelerator is where you actually build the tactical plan to achieve those goals and stay accountable, right? So this is about taking those goals that you wrote down and turning them into action and building vulnerably alongside both us and your peers and creating and feeling that momentum together. So here's a brief look at what's included. A one-on-one goal review session. So we'll look through your goals, your plans, and your documents. Those get real attention from us, so we can talk to you about maybe making them more specific, how we're going to measure against them, things like that. Personalized one-on-one coaching sessions. So these are designed around your specific goals and challenges to help you build your tactical plan and to do regular check-ins and planning together to get there. Monthly accountability sessions. These are group sessions. So everyone in the Goal Accelerator will come together and we'll talk about where we are and what we're planning and what we're trying to accomplish, right? You'll realize, just like you did in this workshop today, that you are not alone in this, that with community and support, you can achieve your goals and build real momentum. Quarterly check-ins. So we'll check in and assess what's working, what's not, and how to adjust. Same with mid-year recalibrations. We'll do that together, right? So at the end of the goal accelerator, which goes for 6 months, we'll make sure that the second half of your year is set up for success. And then we're also offering async support for questions and guidance between sessions. So here are the details. It's $12.50 a month. It goes for 6 months from February through July. We have around 10 spots available. We are keeping this to a limited quantity so we can really build a really tight-knit community here of people that are supporting each other, right? And we're kicking off on February 2nd. So the registration deadline is the 23rd, which I think is next Friday. We actually already have a handful of people who have raised their hand, are going to be taking some of these spots. So we'll send out all of this information after the workshop, either today or tomorrow. But just know, if you're like, hey, this is exactly what I need. I need personalized support. I need group accountability. I want to make this the year where I am really reaching my goals, achieving my goals, building that stability, building that sustainability, finding the grounding, growing my business, whatever it is. If that is resonating with you, don't sleep on this. I want you in here. I want to work with you, and I want to work with you to make 2026, your most abundant year yet. Um, we don't really have a lot of time for questions on setting your goals or joining the Goal Accelerator because we're at time now. I know that we just went 2 minutes over, but here's what I'm going to invite you to do. After the workshop, we are going to send everyone here and everyone who couldn't attend an email with the recording, with the presentation that we went through today, with information on Lettuce and Betterment, and a lot of information on the Goal Accelerator and how to get started. I encourage everyone, if you have a question that we didn't get to today, if you have a question about the Goal Accelerator, whatever it is, respond to that email. Andrea and I are there. We'll walk you through it. We'll jump on a call with you, whatever it is. We want to make sure that you feel supported and that you feel ready to finalize your goals, make your decisions, and make 2026 your best year yet. Andrea, on that note, any remaining remarks? Anything you want to say at the end?
No, thanks for sticking with us.
Awesome. This was so amazing. Totally exceeded my expectations. Thank you all for sharing so much and being so open and vulnerable. I really appreciate it. We will be in touch soon. Thank you so much.